Welcome to Down the Rabbit Hole, a podcast for folks in design and tech. We will hop into expert insights, tech, tools, trends, and top questions answered by the Design Buddies community.
We are your hosts, Grace and Maddie, and welcome to our first ever episode. Today's agenda, we'll be going through the history, story time of how Design Buddies was born and how we're able to scale to over 60,000 members in 3 years. We'll talk about Grace and Maddie's backgrounds in design, how we got into design, our stories, our hobbies outside of design, and some cool stories we have, and more. And then stay to the end for some of our hot takes in design. So Design Buddies, welcome. I'm so glad you're here. I made Design Buddies in April of 2020 because I was a student and I want some friends in design. I I studied bio and computer engineering in school, and later I decided I want to get into UX design. And I found that other design communities at that time were very intimidating. I was really scared to ask questions, and I was scared that if I ask a question, people will know I know nothing. So there's a lot of imposter syndrome, a lot of just scariness and out there. And for me, I love meeting cool people. Before COVID, I was actually hosting a lot of meetups with strangers from the internet, actually. Probably would not recommend looking back, but I love just like meeting people from different backgrounds, from backgrounds different than I have, and just learning from that perspectives. So during COVID, it was really big for me because I was kind of just stuck at home. I felt lonely, so I made this Discord server called Design Buddies, and then I shared it on all of my social media platforms. And I also encourage people to share it with their friends as well. So we blew up. We got like 200 members in the first week. And I kept sharing it in other places. I was going to events sharing it. I was like, oh, this could be really big. So we got our first 1,000 members in the first month. So by May 2020, thank you. We did an event with Figma actually. So this is really big. So I love Figma. I've been using it since I started design, and we did a fireside chat with one of their product designers. And then soon a lot of other companies started reaching out to us to do events and workshops, design challenges, and we continue to grow that way. And today we have 60,000 members about 3 years later. Over the world, we've been doing a lot of events, online, in person, across 6 different cities, even across the world, like North America, Singapore, as well as continuing with our design challenges, content, a job board, helping buddies land jobs, and we're launching our podcast right now. So thanks y'all for tuning in. And I'm so excited to have Maddie here with me as well. Maddie reached out to me to help us do a podcast. So Maddie, welcome. I'd love to know about who you are and how did you get into design?
Yes, hi everyone. It's amazing to be here. I really appreciate Grace for uh, hopping in to this amazing adventure in podcasting. So I really enjoy it. I think it's a great way to meet new people and just have a brainstorm conversation with multiple people at the same time where you get to learn a lot. For me, my journey has been a roller coaster. I decided that I wanted to try multiple things until I found product design. I went from starting to study marketing and communication. I worked in marketing and communication. In my first year, I decided with my friends that I wanted to create a company, a startup with swimwear right in the first year of college, which it didn't go as planned, of course. But it was a really interesting situation where I got to learn about a lot about design and also video editing, which I found it was really interesting. And then I was doing also a few classes in design, more related to social media and, like the typical marketing has to do design situation. And after that, I decided to do a postgrad where I learned like the wireframing, and I started like, oh, product design sounds so fun. Design, UX, UI design sounds so fun, which it wasn't actually in reality there. At that time, it was called web design. So it was interesting. It was a journey, but I said at the time, no, I'm not going to do this. I don't think I'm capable of doing it. So I'll just have it in my backend, and maybe someday I will come back. As weird as it went, every single year that passed until I finally made the decision. Web design was always in the back end. I did a lot of websites in the meantime, and I got the opportunity to do a UX UI design bootcamp while I was doing my master's. So I did both, which it was crazy. Yeah, that was so it was interesting, I might say, but I finished both and I got my first job for within a month. I did a lot of yeah, thank you. I did a lot of like freelancing and things like this to make sure when I start the job, I had the ability to actually start the job. And yes, it's been like this. Since I started, I just loved. It's such an inclusive environment, which just felt so at home. You know, it's at least the design world for me, from what I've been learning, it's so much cleaner in the sense that people want to help each other and don't have anything to hurt others. Of course, there's always that situations, but in more like general kind of view from my experience so far, it has been really good. And right now, I am a Google Women Technique Ambassador and also a co-leader for the Ladies at UX in Lisbon. And yeah, and now I'm with Grace doing the podcast, which is amazing. And without further ado, Grace, I know most people already know you, but would you like to say to them a little bit about you?
Yeah, for sure. I'm really curious since I know a lot of buddies are considering like master's degree and boot camp. What was your master's degree and boot camp, and how were you able to manage both at the same time, and what made you want to pursue both?
Yeah, that's interesting. So, the master's I was already doing, it was in marketing intelligence. So it was nothing to do with, it was analytics based, like number based, which has a bit with the UX. So it helped me with the UX because you had to think of the user, the behavior of the user, not only specifically to how to sell a product, but how to understand the product. And so that's how it helped me. And the bootcamp, I got the opportunity to do it. It just felt right. I made the decision in like 2 days and it was done, the decision. Because I don't know, when you have that push that it just makes sense. You don't know why, but it makes sense. And they had, specifically to this bootcamp, they had a part where I really enjoyed, which was after the bootcamp, you would have people help you to get a job in the market. So that was important to me in a sense that it's something new. Gladly, I had a few experiences prior, but yeah, it was great. I made a lot of long-lived friends. I think that's the expression. Friends for life, I would say. Yeah. So yeah, it was interesting. I would love to learn a little bit more about your experience specifically to start the internship where you started, because it's a huge company and I think it's so interesting the way it works, but I don't think it's stopped enough, at least here. I'm in Portugal, by the way. So Grace is in the United States, as you know, so we are into completely different worlds. So I'm interested to know, how does it work there in terms of UX design and design? So,
Yeah, for sure. I can share a bit about my background, how I got into design. And if you're ever, for our buddies ever in Portugal and Lisbon, definitely reach out to Maddie and get involved in Ladies at UX at Lisbon. Yeah, so I also did a master's degree and was considering doing a boot camp as well, but ended up not doing it. So I was always like, that's why I asked that question. I was like curious, what made you want to do both? For my experience in the United States in design is interesting. I would say, like, for my background growing up, I want to become an anime artist and a game designer, but I was born and raised in Silicon Valley, I guess the capital of tech and AI. There's a lot of tech companies there. Born and raised near the Apple campus, like the headquarters. So I had like classmates who always dreamed of working at Apple. Like they put it in their yearbook as like, my goals to be an engineer at Apple. Like literally, I was looking at my middle school yearbook the other day. That was their life goal. So that was like my upbringing. And going to school here is very, very competitive. A lot of people, a lot of the my classmates were like, "Hey, what are your grades? Like, what college did you get into? What are your SAT, ACT scores?" SAT, ACT is like the standardized test to get into exams. Like, people flat out ask that, and then I felt like this your social class, your social ranking, like the social statuses, your popularity in school correlates to how well you do academically. And so that was my upbringing. However, I was always like different. Like I thought normal was boring, so I was the class clown and I just love making people laugh. It's like more fun. I did not like studying. Like I struggled so hard for all my life in memorizing and following strict rules and getting judged based on that. And so, like, testing school wasn't really my cup of tea, but my parents bribed me with video games. So I actually tried in school to get good grades. So that's how I got interested in games industry because I just love games and couldn't get games unless I get good grades. So there we are, hustling, getting good grades. And then in high school, my mother, she paid me to go to the gym with her. And I discovered running, and I suddenly got really, really fast for some reason. And I broke my school records, went to nationals, placed in top 40 in the nation for cross country and track in high school. And that is actually what inspired my major in going to college as bioengineering because I want to learn how to biohack myself to run faster. But I, of course, branded it as pre med because I wanted to sound prestigious when I was interested in the biohacking. I just thought it was cool. I want to learn how to optimize myself, just like optimizing user flows and design. And then after a couple of years, like I was like a sophomore, second year in college, doing a lot of internships in bioengineering, and I did a lot of lab work. And honestly, I didn't really enjoy what I was doing. Like that, my role in I was doing research on gene therapy, and I felt like I was just repeating experiments over and over again until it worked. And my favorite part of it was taking photos of the cells that I was working with, like not actual work, but I just like take this photography and the Photoshop stuff. And so I was just like, sophomore year. And then my junior year in college, there was this virtual reality lab that opened up at my school. I went to Santa Clara University in the Bay Area, a small private school, but we had a VR lab. And I was just hanging out in there. I didn't really take any classes in there. I was like, this is cool, VR, making games for Oculus Rift. And I taught myself how to learn design. I basically taught myself how to make a game, like from designing to implementing it. I had a long background of playing lots of games, and I watched a lot of YouTube tutorials, made some friends, learned games together, and that really taught me like, hey, even though my major is bioengineering, I'm not limited to my major, and I can just do whatever I want. Like my major is not my life. And so I picked up a minor. I studied computer science engineering, and then I decided to go more into like the game development side because being born and raised in Silicon Valley, it's always like, oh, gotta get into tech, gotta learn how to code. So I was like, all right, I gotta learn how to code then. And so I picked up a minor and then later did a master's in computer science and engineering. Um, but I actually wanted to drop out my first quarter, but I didn't, and I'll get into that. So I was actually focused when I graduated college in 2019. I had a couple of experiences under my belt in like bioengineering and then mostly like software engineering, game dev. And one thing that made me actually want to go into design was one of my internships, summer 2019. I was at Intuitive Surgical. I was a virtual reality robotic surgery game developer intern. So I made this game to train surgeons to do surgery, which was really, really cool. Um, but through the process, I went through the end-to-end process, all the way from concepting to wireframing it and actually building the game. Most of the time was spent like actually coding it and like user testing it and like iterating on that. I just love that. And so I realized my favorite part of like the product cycle is the actual like game design, level design, the UX, user experience part of it, and like testing people, iterating. And so that's how I got into design. However, the reason why I did a master's in computer science engineering is I felt a lot of imposter syndrome. I feel like I didn't have that much design experience, and I felt like I needed to still either go to school, go to work to feel like a productive member in society at that time. Uh, so that is literally why I didn't quit. And I also felt like tech was so competitive. Like I needed to stay in school in order to get my foot in the door. So I continued my master's, and this was 2019, and then COVID happened 2020. So I was trying to desperately get an internship in design in tech. Summer of 2020, however, I was doing interviews, I was getting rejected, I was getting ghosted. A lot of it, my guess is I didn't really have any design experience. I don't have a design degree. I don't have a certification. I never went to any boot camps. I have an engineering degree. So I don't know. I got ghosted all the time, left and right, and got rejected as well. Like, the interviews got rejected. I didn't have that much experience. And for the most of like end of 2019, 2020, COVID happened. I was like, oh no, I'm not going to get an internship. So I was like really desperate. Thankfully, I had a mentor that I met from a Facebook group. So I'm always like in communities, meeting people, meeting different perspectives. His name is Byung, and he's a recruiter in tech. And he gave me this life-changing advice about reaching out to people on LinkedIn, cold reaching out to people. Um, but before I cold reach out to people, a bit of my background is I've been a content creator since 2014. And during 2020, I started seeing a lot of people create content on LinkedIn about like sharing their journeys, their learning. So I was inspired to start creating content on LinkedIn as well, sharing my failures, my successes. And so I also like built up a LinkedIn following and had a night and then really got a lot of feedback on my profile. So Byung gave me this advice to just cold reach out to people for a job. But so the strategy was I would search on LinkedIn, design managers, senior managers, directors, VPs, and add them. Those and then filter by location and company because those people are in a position of hiring. And so I sent 400 cold messages to people. Yes, 400. And then I also looked at people who also viewed on their profile and added more from there as well. And I was like, hey, I'm Grace. Thank you. Gotta hustle, right? It's a numbers game that day. It was a hustle. And so I was like, hey, I'm Grace. I'm a student studying computer science engineering, and I would love to learn about how you got to where you're today. And just treat it as like learning and see where it goes. And actually, that's how I met Morlin, director of my team at EA, Electronic Arts, where I work today, and how I landed an internship there in June 2020. So I've been working there full time ever since December 2020. But thanks to that, but also I feel like a lot of it goes into it. I also recommend some takeaways is like posting content on LinkedIn. I stress LinkedIn because that's where a lot of people in positions of hiring hang out. And so you want visibility. It's all about, I feel like getting a job, especially at a large company when you don't really come from like a design school, it for me, a lot of it has to do with my network. And so a way to get a network without knowing anyone at first is just being loud on LinkedIn because there are people in power hang out. So just get on their radar. And also being able to like leverage LinkedIn to connect with them, learn from them, help each other out, and building relationships, friendships, and down the line. Because the people that I've reached out to before, now like I've also helped them get referrals at EA. So it's like a long-term relationship I've built, even though I felt like I had nothing to offer in return for them as a junior designer. As I grow my career, now I help them give feedback, help them get referrals. Sometimes they get laid off, and I help them write recommendations and stuff. So it's all like a long-term relationship. And just because you might be new doesn't mean you don't have anything to offer. Always ask and stay connected. And so that's how I got into UX. So I've been at EA ever since, been there for 3.5 years. It's been really great. I'm really enjoying it there.
Yeah, I have a question because I think this is something that people from time to time talk about, that you should connect with people, you should talk with people on LinkedIn, but something that I don't find that they do, and you talked about this, was how do you stay connected with these people? Because sometimes when you have a conversation with them, you don't know how to get back to them after when this first conversation ends.
Yeah, for me, I know it is challenging to keep up with like every single person. Sometimes I'll like something. If, for example, if I landed a full-time offer, I'd be like, "Hey, thanks so much for giving me really great advice back in June. I want to update you. I took your advice and got an offer here." Also, by creating content, I also try to follow up with them, connect with them on LinkedIn, and like and comment on their content as well to stay connected. I'm not the best at like messaging people. I really do appreciate when people reach out to me. But how I like to passively stay engaged is reacting to seeing their posts and updates. And also like I also just invite them to design buddies. So I see them hang out there too. So I can continue like organically having them in my circle without it feeling forced. And also, if I see something like a resource or a job opening that they might be interested in based on their interests, I would also just share it with them.
Mhm. Okay, that's really interesting. I know something. I think we already talked about this in some day that we talked. I remember if it wasn't with you, I'm sorry, it was with someone, but I just remember that it was with you. That having the main topics that you discuss with someone in a like a sheet, like the name and what it was with you, right? I had
I think so, maybe.
okay,
Mhm.
good. Okay, yeah, because I think that's another way to also remember who you talked with. If someone or impacted you, and another thing that I like to do, but this is like a add on or something that helps me and to keep my head level headed and in a positive mindset. Talking about what you said in the beginning of your talk, is I have a folder on my computer which is like good messages that people send me, and I always screenshot them, even if it's just thank you so much for having this conversation. For me, sometimes for a person that I value their opinion or something like this, it can give me a boost that I need that day because we are always on the up now. I don't know if you do this or if you do something similar to keep yourself positive and level headed.
I do actually. I have a whole Notion doc of like kudos or like people thanking me or saying how like impacted them. And I like to collect them because it makes me feel happy as well. It's like a hype sheet, a hype doc.
I like that. I think I wrote some I on my folder like the good messages because we are always focusing on like the negatives and the bad things. We give so much strength to them that yeah, I just find that this is an easier way to say no to bad. Something that I wanted, like kind of a joke question or like interesting question. What would be some like design related superpower you would like to be and why?
Yeah, for me, my biggest, not biggest, but like one of my pain points about design is having to make pixel perfect mockups to hand over to developers. And sometimes, like, I can't keep everything pixel perfect. So I just wish whatever high fidelity mockup I make can just be pixel perfect without me having to name all the layers, do all the auto layouts. I can just like put in the elements and it'll be pixel perfect. So like that's something I wish I could do. As you can tell, like I'm not very detail oriented. I like focus. That's like one of my weaknesses I feel. But I like focusing on the big pictures and how I can make the most impact and where I kind of can help spend more time in is like being more detail oriented. So, well, yeah, but yes, I would just like high rally mock-ups at scale.
Yeah, you know something interesting that I feel like it would be connected on Figma. It would be connected to the design system and what we were designing, and like our AI generator or something generated like automatically when you are adding something to your files or to your design, it just automatically goes like pixelated to the right position. Or are you sure you're doing something right or something like this? And if it's not that, click yes, and they just do it for you, something like this. It would be really interesting. Maybe someone who is listening will work on it.
Yes, I would use that tool. I'll pay for it. If you just yeah. What about you? What are some design superpowers you would like to have?
Let's see. Something that I would like to have is okay. So sometimes, when you're doing a project, you don't have the ability to do user testing, unfortunately. So something that I would like to know is not have like the restraint or not the restraint, like the heaviness of not being sure if the user would like or would use what you're doing, if it will work for them. I would love to have the answer. Like, okay, yeah, I'm sure they would use this because I just know, that
Oh, I would love that. I would pay for a tool that can give me that as well.
it would be make it so much easier. But at the same time, uh, wouldn't wouldn't it make us obsolete? Like, I don't know, like the dark side of it. But at the same time, I don't think so because it would give us the ability to have still the human side.
And AI, everything is a remix. AI still needs humans as the input, so I don't think they'll ever disappear.
Exactly. I think now it's a good time for us to talk a little bit about the future of AI around the topic. Something that I've been thinking about and like really strongly about is diving deep into how AI can help with the processes of design. Because really work about processes. I have always done like this and this. I have my process there that I always work with. It's really small, but it's there. And I always try to improve it, and I think AI can really help to limit time on tasks that it doesn't need the human perspective on it. For example, you write everything like quickly that you want, like notes tweaking, like it has to have this, it has to have that, it has to have this is what I know, this, etc. And then they just organize on a document, for example. And this would help a lot with making the process quicker. And that's something that I want to dive in this year and next year. So I will start this year, but I want to be proficient on AI design. Something I already did like a course in product AI design, like how to use AI to more on the product manager side. But I think it's really interesting to understand how managers will also use these for products. I don't know. Have you been trying some new tool in AI that you find that it's interesting and will it evolve?
Yeah, I mostly actually just use ChatGPT and Google Bard. I like to experiment with different prompts, but I have worked with product managers who have used AI to write product requirement documents or generate me like a, well, without going into specifics because I can't share them, but like generate me a product that can do X, or generate me a PRD or product requirement document that can do X. I feel like AI is a great starting point to write like documents, to generate like design requirement documents as well. But I don't think it's good enough to like exactly copy and paste over. Like I've actually used AI to help me brainstorm content ideas, like generate me 10 viral LinkedIn post ideas about UX design and just take inspiration. A lot of it is like, in my opinion, not good enough, but I use that to like help me be more creative and giving me more ideas to start with, especially with content creation. Um, Also generate me like SEO tags for the Design Buddies newsletter. So I'll do that. Like write me a SEO like a description between about 90 characters optimized for SEO for a blog about X. And so I've used ChatGPT and AI in the sense of like for the marketing content stuff, um, generate event ideas, event titles, but I never like was able to copy and paste it. So I just treat it as a starting point. I've also used ChatGPT to generate like Lord Ipsum copy. And I've also seen tools, I know like Galileo, they generate like AI wireframes, like UI elements. And I could see a lot of potential in, because like as a designer, one of your tasks is to come up with a lot of potential solutions to a problem. And it could help you come up with more ideas to iterate on. Because how I'm currently doing is for competitive analysis and for just like getting more ideas to make sure my designs are using like familiar UX user patterns, I had to manually go on these websites or even check on Mob and seeing what's out there. But I'd love it to like have that automated by AI and also AI using summarizing the user research that I get. So I'm just thinking about like what processes as a designer I'm spending the most time in, and seeing how I can use AI to do that at scale.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think coming back to what you said, like the first thing or the first problem that people have when creating content, I feel like it's the starting point. They never start because they never know how to start or where to start. So I like you do it like gave me 10 titles or 10 content ideas that I can use for my own social media or my own LinkedIn. I think that's something that will help people to just start having a starting point and not having like the blockage that most people have, which is right in the beginning. So yeah, I definitely agree with you. Another tool that I think it's good, like the one you just said, Galileo, it's the user UI Zerd.
Oh, user. Yes, I know. Though, yeah.
Yeah, I think that one is also getting to the point that it's good. It of course it's not there yet, but it's getting to a point that it's good to integrate with it. Yeah, I think just to like summarize a little bit the AI journey. I think that's a lot of content. I think this is something that we can like talk multiple times about, and also listen to what maybe even the design buddies have to say about it, about AI and how it's impacted their lives. And maybe we can have a conversation about it. And on the next episode or 3 episodes, it doesn't matter, just discuss like community based what this AI has for the community and for us as designers.
Yes, I have some friends who are experts and builders and founders in the AI space that I would love to have on here. So stay tuned. So I guess to cap it off, or a couple of other things, kind of like a lightning round. What are your hobbies and talents outside of design?
I love that. Okay, so as you can see from behind me, maybe the people who are just listening cannot. So I'll just say I have 2 hobbies or 3 hobbies, and the 3 of them are right on the background, which is reading. I like to read a lot, and Legos. I like to build Legos, and taking photos with families and friends, and just have it all around. I have in front of me like a lot of pictures of people who make me happy and letters from people. So I love to. I think one of my hobbies is just taking pictures with friends and family and make the like a collage, and also like having letters that important people in my life have gave me. And I love going to events. I think that's something that's really nice. I love movies and TV shows, and sometimes I love them too much that I just see them a lot, a lot, a lot. There was a time in my life that everything that I did was watch movies and TV shows. I actually remember when I was little, I was still living in another town, and I remember vividly this day. I was in my bedroom and I was with my computer, and I was like, Adelena, it's really interesting to like TV shows and movies. You have to find a way to like it. And when you just start to like pushing and pushing, and I just love it. I just find it funny because I remember vividly that conversation I had with myself in my room with my computer. So yeah, from that day on, I just watch a lot of movies and TV shows.
Yeah, I have a lot of random hobbies outside of design. I love to draw. I love to travel. I've been going to like 20 countries every year, and including Antarctica next year. So I'm really excited for that. I love to hike, go to events, hang out with my friends, try new things, and just live every day differently and create content as well and talk about it on the internet to help my learnings, and as well as I just love the internet because it helps me with so many cool people and build businesses as well. So I love like art, running, yeah, and traveling, just experiencing new things. That's what I love to do.
And that's how I found you. So
Yeah, thanks so much for reaching out. I appreciate it.
yeah, I think the first time we had this conversation already, but the first time I saw you, the first time I read about you, I think I even comment. Usually, I don't comment a lot because I don't I will start having more time, but I didn't have a lot of time. But I saw, and I just find it so refreshing and so like positive, you know. And now, even yesterday, I think you shared your Pokemon, like Pikachu Renaissance kind of. And I was like, yeah, you're the same person that I saw a few months ago. And I just find it refreshing in social media to have someone who just is themselves. Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, I feel like LinkedIn, I used to be such a scary corporate place for me, but I have gotten a lot of valuable connections from just being myself. Like growing up, I was a class clown and I call myself a corporate clown. Sometimes but like I just love making people laugh. So like, yeah, for anyone listening, don't change yourself for anyone else. Just be yourself and let it be.
Yeah. Find people who help you to not forget that. I think that's also another thing. Because alone, it's really hard to just be yourself. Being yourself with someone else, I just find it so powerful. Yeah, at
Yeah, and who you hang out with can really, really affect your view in life. I learned that the hard way, which I'm so grateful for. But your life goal is not to please everyone, it's to live your best life and try to help others along the way. And you don't have time to please every single person. So please don't let any negativity or rejection get to you. Everyone faces it. It's also okay to feel sad. As humans, it's normal to focus on this one small negative thing and forget about the big picture. And yeah, but you have so much great things going for yourself. So don't let that stop you from doing whatever y'all will want to do in life.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with you. I think that everything that we shared today, even though we talked about so many different things, I think there's always something for everyone, and I'm really happy that our first episode is so driven by uh, how others can perceive their own professional but also personal journey.
Yeah, me too. One last question. What are your hot takes in design, or some of our hot takes to spice things up?
One of them is for sure that uh, there's a lot of egos in this industry, even though we are all in this in even though this environment, this area is more positive than others. There's always a lot of egos, and sometimes those egos don't even know that they have, or they are showing those egos. So I think my hot take, or I will reframe it as something that I would advise to people that sometimes don't listen to how they make others feel, how they make others feel, is take a step back and see if what you're saying or what you're doing is actually uh, helping others and helping yourself, or it's just you trying to hide your own insecurities, because sometimes it's just insecurity.
I agree. I used to be the same. I used to have a lot of ego, so I would feel the need to flex or show off, and I was actually deeply insecure. So I really resonated on that. But as I get more experience, fail, have an open mind to learn about it, I started to understand, like, hey, what's the point of like me flexing? I'm not like helping anyone else unless, but I still like advocate for myself. I still introduce myself as, yeah, but also like with the goal of getting more opportunities and getting, yeah. So there's different use cases, but yeah, I agree. And for anyone feeling like a lot of people seem to be like showing off, it's okay. Like, but I feel like kind of going to like my hot take is I feel like some people take their job titles too seriously. I'm not targeting one specific person, just in general, what I've seen on the internet, including myself before. So I'm also critiquing my old self, which I feel like we're all learning, growing. And I used to just define myself as like a designer, but I feel like we're humans much more. Like, yeah, we're designers. Sometimes design is our job, make it for a living, but there's so much more to life beyond design. And I like whether someone, even the seniority level, like I feel like everyone's so different. Everyone has different strengths, weaknesses, and different value to offer. So just don't judge someone based on the job title, and don't take your job title too seriously, and don't see your job title as a constraint. Like just because you're a designer doesn't mean you can also be like an entrepreneur, artist. Life is full of everything. Don't limit yourself, and don't feel intimidated by it, or don't like judge people based on their title.
And sometimes that's people, or is it a misunderstanding, or they just need a hug. But also, it's not your job to hug them. That's another thing. Even though they might need a hug, if you are willing to give that to them, great. But if you're not, you shouldn't feel bad for that, because they didn't treat you right.
Exactly. And you don't owe anyone anything at the end of the day. And take care of yourself first, because if without yourself, you can't help anyone else, anyways.
I love that. It's such a positive way to also end or almost end our conversation. And yeah, something that I would love to know is, because design buddies is just a huge community, and with different backgrounds, different stories. I would love to learn for them, like what for you that is listening. What would you say it's the best approach to these situations, or how do you learn from your own mistakes?
Yeah, I'm so grateful to have like a lot of people in my support circle. And a lot of these people often have like the best interests and also more experience than I have. So I can also probably talk about this more in another episode, but I made a lot of mistakes along the way for design buddies. Um, but I was so grateful to have mentors and people in my life who can are willing to listen to me and also give me advice. But also, I really value open mindedness and learning about both sides of a situation before making a judgment. I feel like this is also really important in as a designer and in a community is to just be a listener and listen to understand instead of listening to respond or make a judgment. Just try to gather all the data before making a decision. So by doing that, I feel like I gained a deeper understanding of what issues I'm facing and what kind of solutions and just being having my ego low and just like being able to like get advice from other people and trying things out, not taking all the advice, but questioning where the advice is coming from and making decisions based on that. So with design buddies and everything, I really try to just make decisions that I feel would benefit the most people in a win-win situation for all. So that's how I go about my decision making.
I think that's also a great way for us to finish our conversation of today.
Yeah, that sounds great. For any of our buddies listening, stay tuned and please submit what you'd like to see in the forum in the show notes. Join us on Discord and stay up to date on our socials, mostly on Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube and LinkedIn. And hop into our Discord to meet other buddies and chat with Grace and Maddie as well. Thank y'all for tuning in to our first ever show.